You are broadcasting the wrong signal. Every single day you wake up and transmit a frequency of doubt, fear, and limitation into the universe. Then you wonder why your life reflects nothing but doubt, fear, and limitation back to you. You check your bank account and feel the squeeze of anxiety. You look in the mirror and whisper criticisms. You replay yesterday's failures and project them onto tomorrow's possibilities. Joseph Murphy taught that you are not simply a person living in a world. You are a transmission tower broadcasting a specific vibrational signal 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without pause, without rest, without mercy. The universe does not judge this signal. It does not debate whether you deserve better. It does not consider your intentions or your hopes. It simply matches your frequency with mathematical precision and delivers circumstances that vibrate at exactly the same rate. You have been complaining that life is unfair while unknowingly tuning your dial to the station of unfairness. You have been begging for abundance while your inner frequency screams poverty. The universe is not ignoring you. It is obeying you. You are broadcasting the wrong signal. Every single day you wake up and transmit a frequency of doubt, fear, and limitation into the universe. Then you wonder why your life reflects nothing but doubt, fear, and limitation back to you. You check your bank account and feel the squeeze of anxiety. You look in the mirror and whisper criticisms. You replay yesterday's failures and project them onto tomorrow's possibilities. Joseph Murphy taught that you are not simply a person living in a world. You are a transmission tower broadcasting a specific vibrational signal 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without pause, without rest, without mercy. The universe does not judge this signal. It does not debate whether you deserve better. It does not consider your intentions or your hopes. It simply matches your frequency with mathematical precision and delivers circumstances that vibrate at exactly the same rate. You have been complaining that life is unfair while unknowingly tuning your dial to the station of unfairness. You have been begging for abundance while your inner frequency screams poverty. The universe is not ignoring you. It is obeying you. It is giving you exactly what you are asking for at the level that matters, the level of vibration. The pain you carry is the exhaustion of effort without result. You have read the books. You have spoken the affirmations, you have written the goals and visualized the outcomes, and still, your reality remains stubbornly unchanged, mocking your attempts at transformation. You wake up each morning with hope, and by noon that hope has curdled into frustration. By evening, the frustration has calcified into resignation. You tell yourself that manifestation does not work, that the law of attraction is a fantasy sold to desperate people. But Murphy understood something you have missed entirely. The reason your affirmations fail is not that the law is broken. The reason is that you are speaking one thing with your mouth while broadcasting another thing with your being. You say, "I am wealthy," while your stomach clenches with financial fear. You say, "I am loved," while your heart radiates the frequency of unworthiness. The universe does not hear your words. It reads your frequency. And your frequency is a liar that tells the truth about what you really believe. Here is the reverse bridge that will shatter your current understanding. You have been trying to change your reality by manipulating the external world. You've been pushing, forcing, strategizing, and hustling, believing that enough action will eventually produce different results. But Murphy revealed that action without frequency alignment is like rowing a boat while the anchor is still lodged in the mud. You can exhaust yourself with effort, but you will not move an inch because you are tethered to the bottom by your own vibrational heaviness. The external world is not the cause. It is the effect. It is the printout of the program running in your subconscious mind. Changing the printout without changing the program is insanity. You keep rearranging the furniture in a burning house instead of putting out the fire. The fire is your frequency. The fire is the chronic signal of lack, fear, and limitation that you broadcast every waking moment without conscious awareness. Murphy promises you this: if you learn to construct a frequency so powerful, so stable, so saturated with the vibration of your desired reality, the external world will have no choice but to reorganize itself around your signal. Reality does not resist a strong frequency. Reality obeys it. In this video, we will learn what Murphy called the Frequency Architecture Protocol, the precise method for building an internal signal so dominant that circumstances must conform to it. This is not visualization as daydreaming. This is not affirmation as wishful speaking. This is the engineering of consciousness itself. You will learn how to identify your current broadcast frequency with ruthless accuracy. You will learn how to dismantle the old signal that has been creating your unwanted reality. You will learn how to construct a new frequency using the 3 pillars Murphy identified as thought, emotion, and assumption. And you will learn how to stabilize that frequency against the constant static of the external world trying to pull you back into old patterns. This is not philosophy. This is not spirituality in the soft, comforting sense. This is the mechanics of reality creation taught with the precision of an engineer explaining how a bridge is built. Murphy understood that the universe operates on law, not luck. Frequency determines experience. Change the frequency, and the experience must change. This is not hope. This is mathematics. But I must warn you of something critical. There is a specific sabotage pattern that destroys frequency work before it can produce results. Murphy called it the checking compulsion. It is the habit of looking for evidence that your new frequency is working, and in that very looking, you destroy the frequency itself. When you affirm abundance, and then immediately check your bank account to see if the money has appeared, you have just broadcast the frequency of doubt. When you declare perfect health and then monitor your symptoms to see if they have improved, you have just transmitted the signal of sickness. The checking compulsion is the assassin of manifestation, and I will reveal in Part 4 exactly how to overcome it, how to hold your frequency stable even when no external evidence supports it. This is the discipline that separates those who transform their reality from those who merely dream about it. Right now, I need you to make a commitment. If you are ready to stop broadcasting poverty, fear, and limitation, if you are ready to construct a frequency so powerful that reality must obey, type in the comments below, "I am the signal." This is not a wish. This is a declaration to the universe that you understand the law. You are not asking for change. You are announcing that you are becoming the change at the level of frequency. Type it now and then subscribe to this channel because the architecture we are about to build requires the complete blueprint. Every video on sacred logic is a piece of that blueprint, a coordinate in the construction of your new transmission tower. Let us now examine the central principle that Murphy called the law of vibration. For without understanding this law, all attempts at reality creation become random acts of hope rather than precise engineering of outcome.
Everything in the universe vibrates.
This is not metaphor or poetic language. This is physics confirmed by quantum mechanics and recognized by every mystical tradition throughout human history. The chair you sit on appears solid, but is composed of atoms vibrating at a specific frequency. The air you breathe is vibration. The light you see is vibration. The thoughts you think are vibration. Murphy understood that the human being is not separate from this vibrational universe, but is a node within it, a localized concentration of vibrating energy that both transmits and receives signals constantly. Your body is a vibrational instrument. Your mind is a vibrational tuner, and your experience is the vibrational match between what you broadcast and what the universe reflects back. Consider the analogy of the radio. You must tune to the rock station. You cannot tune to the country station and complain that you are not hearing jazz. The radio is neutral. It plays whatever frequency it is tuned to receive. Murphy revealed that you operate on exactly the same principle. The universe is filled with infinite frequencies, infinite possibilities, infinite potential realities, all existing simultaneously as vibrational patterns. Wealth exists as a frequency. Poverty exists as a frequency. Health exists as a frequency. Sickness exists as a frequency. Love, loneliness, success, failure, joy, despair, all of these exist as distinct vibrational patterns broadcasting throughout the infinite field. Your consciousness is the tuner. Whatever frequency you hold determines which channel you receive. If you hold the frequency of lack, you tune to the lack station and receive circumstances of lack. If you hold the frequency of abundance, you tune to the abundance station and receive circumstances of abundance. The universe is not choosing for you. You are choosing by virtue of your dominant vibration. This understanding demolishes the victim mentality that keeps most people trapped in unwanted circumstances. You are not the victim of bad luck. You are not the target of cosmic injustice. You are not cursed by fate or punished by God. You are simply tuned to the wrong station. And just as you can change the station on a radio by turning the dial, you can change your life experience by adjusting your frequency. Murphy taught that this adjustment is not difficult in principle, but it requires understanding and discipline. The difficulty comes from the fact that your current frequency has momentum. It has been broadcasting for years, perhaps decades. It has created neural pathways in your brain, emotional patterns in your body, and habitual assumptions in your subconscious mind. Changing the frequency is like trying to turn a massive ship. It does not happen instantly. It requires sustained pressure in the new direction until the old momentum is overcome and the new course is established. The law of vibration also explains why two people can experience the same external event in completely different ways. Consider two people who lose their jobs on the same day. One person holding a frequency of resilience and abundance interprets the job loss as an opportunity for something better. They maintain their vibrational stability, continue to feel prosperous despite the apparent setback, and within weeks they have attracted a better position with higher pay. The other person, holding a frequency of victimhood and scarcity, interprets the job loss as proof that life is unfair. They spiral into fear and desperation. Their frequency plummets, and they attract more circumstances that match their lowered vibration, prolonged unemployment, rejection after rejection, deepening financial crisis. The external event was identical. The difference in outcome was entirely determined by the frequency each person held in response to the event. This is not blame. This is physics. This is the law operating with perfect neutrality. Murphy was adamant that understanding this removes the last excuse for remaining stuck. Now let us go deeper into the mechanics of frequency, for Murphy taught that your personal vibration is not a single note, but a complex chord composed of three fundamental elements that must be aligned for the frequency to have power. These three elements are thought, emotion, and assumption. Most people understand that thoughts affect reality. This has become common knowledge in personal development circles, but Murphy revealed that thought alone is weak. Thought without emotion is like a radio tower without electricity. It has the structure to transmit but lacks the power to send a signal. Emotion is the power source that gives thought its broadcasting capability. When you think a thought and feel the corresponding emotion, you create a coherent signal that the universe can register and respond to. But even thought combined with emotion is insufficient if it contradicts the deeper level of assumption. Assumption is the bedrock frequency that Murphy identified as the most powerful determinant of experience. Assumption is what you take for granted about yourself and your world without conscious examination. It is the unquestioned lens through which you filter all experience. Consider the person who thinks positive thoughts and feels positive emotions but holds a deep, unconscious assumption that they are unworthy of good things. The positive thoughts and emotions create surface vibrations, but these surface vibrations are constantly contradicted by the deeper assumption of unworthiness. The universe reads the deeper signal. The universe responds to the assumption, not the affirmation. This is why so many people practice positive thinking without results. They are creating static on the surface while the fundamental frequency remains unchanged at the level of assumption. Murphy taught that true frequency work must address all three levels. You must align your thoughts with your desired reality. You must saturate those thoughts with the corresponding emotions, and you must shift your foundational assumptions so that your desired reality feels not like something you are trying to create, but like something you already are. When thought, emotion, and assumption are coherent, when they all broadcast the same signal without internal contradiction, the frequency becomes what Murphy called irresistible. Reality has no mechanism to refuse an irresistible frequency. Reality must obey. The practical implication of this teaching is that you must become a detective of your own consciousness. You must examine not just what you think, but why you think it. You must investigate not just what you feel, but what assumptions generate those feelings. Most of your assumptions are invisible to you because they were installed in your consciousness before you were old enough to question them. Your parents, Your teachers, your culture, your early experiences all contributed to a matrix of assumptions that now operate as the background frequency of your existence. You did not choose these assumptions. They were chosen for you. But Murphy insisted that you have the power to examine them now, to question them now, to dismantle them if they do not serve you, and to replace them with assumptions that support your desired reality. This is the deepest work of frequency construction. It is not simply about thinking positive thoughts. It is about reprogramming the foundational code of your consciousness so that positive thoughts arise naturally from a transformed substrate of positive assumptions. The required state for frequency construction is what Murphy called dwelling in the end. This phrase is perhaps the most important instruction he ever gave, and most people misunderstand it completely. Dwelling in the end does not mean visualizing your goal occasionally. It does not mean affirming your desire during a morning meditation and then returning to your normal consciousness for the rest of the day. Dwelling in the end means inhabiting the frequency of your desired reality as your dominant state of being. It means living from the end rather than toward the end. It means assuming that your desire is already fulfilled and allowing that assumption to color every thought, every emotion, every perception of your day. Murphy taught that the secret is to psychologically enter the state you would occupy if your desire were already fulfilled, and to remain there regardless of external circumstances that seem to contradict it. This sounds simple, but it is the most demanding discipline in the entire teaching. Your external circumstances will constantly tempt you to abandon the frequency of your desired reality and return to the frequency of your current reality. If you desire wealth but your bank account shows poverty, the evidence of your senses will scream at you to abandon your assumption of wealth. If you desire health but your body shows symptoms, the pain will demand that you return to the frequency of sickness. Murphy called this the tyranny of the senses. The senses report only what exists at the present moment. They cannot perceive what is forming in the invisible realm of frequency. To dwell in the end requires that you subordinate your senses to your assumption. It requires that you trust the law more than you trust your eyes. This is not denial of reality. It is the recognition that external reality is a lagging indicator of internal frequency. The external world always reflects the past. The internal world always creates the future. When you change your internal frequency, there is a delay before the external world catches up. During that delay, you must hold the new frequency stable against all contrary evidence. Consider the analogy of planting a seed. When a farmer plants a seed in the ground, he does not dig it up the next day to check if it has sprouted. He trusts the law of growth. He knows that the seed is doing its work underground, invisible to his eyes, and that in due time the shoot will break through the soil and become visible. If he digs up the seed every day to check on its progress, he destroys the very process he is trying to observe. Murphy taught that manifestation works exactly the same way. When you plant a new frequency in your subconscious mind, you must trust the process. You must not dig up the seed by constantly checking for results. The checking itself is a frequency, and that frequency says, "I doubt this is working." The doubt frequency contradicts the faith frequency. The seed cannot grow in the soil of doubt. Dwelling in the end means planting the seed and then watering it daily with sustained assumption, while trusting that the invisible process is working even when you cannot see it. Murphy gave specific instructions for cultivating the dwelling state. The most effective time to impress the new frequency on the subconscious is the drowsy state just before sleep. In this liminal zone between waking and sleeping, the conscious mind with its doubts and objections is subdued, and the subconscious mind is highly receptive to new impressions. Murphy called this the state akin to sleep, and he taught that assumptions impressed during this state take root with extraordinary power. The technique is to compose a short scene that implies the fulfillment of your desire, not a scene of wanting the thing or working toward the thing, but a scene that could only happen after the thing is already yours. If you desire a specific home, you might construct a scene of sitting in your favorite chair in that home, feeling the texture of the armrest, seeing the view from the window, hearing the sounds of the neighborhood. The scene should be short, 10 to 15 seconds, and it should be saturated with sensory detail. As you fall asleep, you loop this scene repeatedly, feeling the emotions you would feel if this were your actual experience. You do this not once, but every night until the assumption has saturated your consciousness and the external manifestation appears. The drowsy state technique is powerful because it bypasses the critical faculty of the conscious mind. During the day, when you affirm your desire, your conscious mind often argues back. It says, "This is not true. You cannot afford that. You have never succeeded before. Why would this time be different?" These objections create static that weakens the frequency you are trying to broadcast. But in the drowsy state, the conscious mind is offline. There is no argument, no objection, no contradiction. The assumption passes directly into the subconscious and begins to reorganize your fundamental frequency. Murphy taught that a few weeks of consistent drowsy state practice can accomplish more than years of daytime affirmation because the impression is so much deeper and less contested. But dwelling in the end is not limited to the drowsy state. It must become your continuous psychological posture throughout the day. This is where most people fail. They do their evening visualization with discipline, but then they spend the entire day contradicting it with worry, doubt, and focus on current problems. Murphy was clear that the daytime frequency matters as much as the nighttime impression. You cannot plant roses at night and then pour acid on the soil during the day and expect roses to grow. The daytime practice of dwelling in the end involves catching yourself whenever you slip out of the assumption and gently guiding yourself back. It involves noticing when your thoughts drift to lack and redirecting them to abundance. It involves feeling for the emotional frequency of your fulfilled desire and returning to it whenever you notice you have drifted away. This is not exhausting effort. It is gentle, persistent realignment. Over time, the new frequency becomes more stable, more automatic, more dominant. The slipbacks become less frequent. The dwelling becomes more natural. And eventually, you reach the tipping point where the new frequency has so much momentum that it becomes your default state, and the old frequency of lack and limitation becomes the aberration rather than the norm. We now arrive at the frequency architecture protocol, the precise step-by-step method that Murphy developed for constructing a signal so powerful that reality must reorganize around it. This protocol has 3 phases, and each phase must be completed in sequence for the architecture to be sound. You cannot build the second floor before the foundation is laid. You cannot install the roof before the walls are raised. Frequency construction follows architectural law, and Murphy understood that most people fail because they try to broadcast a new signal without first demolishing the old transmission tower. The first phase is what Murphy called the frequency audit. Before you can build a new signal, you must understand exactly what signal you are currently broadcasting. This requires ruthless honesty because your current frequency is not what you think it is. It is not your conscious desires or your stated intentions. It is the sum total of your habitual thoughts, emotional patterns, and unconscious assumptions. To audit your frequency, you must examine the 3 elements we discussed: thought, emotion, and assumption, and identify what you are actually transmitting in each domain. Begin with your thoughts. For 1 full day, observe your mental activity without trying to change it. Notice what you think about when your mind is not occupied with tasks. Notice the commentary running in the background. Notice the questions you ask yourself, the statements you make about yourself, the predictions you make about the future. Write down the dominant themes. Most people are shocked when they perform this audit honestly. They discover that their mental activity is dominated by worry, complaint, self-criticism, and rehearsal of worst-case scenarios. They discover that their conscious positive thoughts are a tiny fraction of their total mental output, drowned out by the background noise of habitual negativity. This is not a cause for shame. It is a cause for clarity. You cannot change what you do not see. The frequency audit makes visible what was operating invisibly, and visibility is the first requirement for transformation. Next, audit your emotions. Emotions are the fuel of frequency, and most people have no idea what emotional state they spend most of their time in. For 1 day, check in with yourself every hour and notice what you are feeling, not what you think you should be feeling, not what you want to be feeling. What are you actually feeling right now in your body, in your chest, in your stomach, in your throat? Name the emotion. Is it anxiety? Is it frustration? Is it resignation? Is it hope? Is it peace? Is it excitement? Write down what you discover. At the end of the day, look at the pattern. What emotion appeared most frequently? What emotion did you wake up with? What emotion did you go to sleep with? This is your emotional frequency. This is the power source of your transmission tower. If you spend most of your day in anxiety, you are broadcasting the frequency of anxiety and attracting circumstances that generate more anxiety. If you spend most of your day in frustration, you are attracting circumstances that frustrate. The emotional audit reveals the fuel you have been using, and it explains with perfect clarity why your current reality looks the way it does. Finally, audit your assumptions. This is the most difficult part of the audit because assumptions are invisible by nature. They are the water the fish swims in, so pervasive and constant that they become imperceptible. Murphy suggested several methods for surfacing assumptions. One method is to examine your automatic responses to hypothetical scenarios. If someone told you tomorrow that you had inherited $1 million, what would your immediate internal response be? If it is excitement and acceptance, your assumption about money is positive. If it is disbelief, suspicion, or a feeling of unworthiness, your assumption about money is negative. If someone told you tomorrow that the person you most desire is now in love with you, what would your immediate internal response be? If it is joy and acceptance, your assumption about love is positive. If it is doubt, fear that you do not deserve it, or certainty that something will go wrong, your assumption about love is negative. Another method is to examine the language you use when speaking about yourself. Do you say things like, "I always struggle with money," or "I never get lucky," or "people like me do not end up successful"? These statements reveal assumptions so deep that you do not even recognize them as assumptions. You think they are facts, but they are not facts. They are the vibrational filters through which you have been experiencing reality, the colored glasses that tint everything you see. Once the frequency audit is complete, you have a map of your current transmission. You know what thoughts dominate your mind. You know what emotions fuel your broadcast. You know what assumptions form the bedrock of your signal. This map is essential because it shows you exactly what must be changed. Without the map, frequency work becomes random and unfocused. With the map, it becomes surgical and precise. The second phase of the frequency architecture protocol is demolition. You must dismantle the old transmission tower before you can build the new one. This is the step most people skip, and it is why their results are temporary or non-existent. They try to build a new frequency on top of the old one, which creates internal contradiction and static. The old signal continues to broadcast, interfering with the new signal, and the universe receives a garbled transmission that produces confused and inconsistent results. Demolition begins with a recognition that your old frequency is not you. It is a program that was installed in you. It is a habit that was formed by repetition. It is a pattern that was created by circumstance. That it is not your essential nature. Murphy taught that the true self is not the conditioned self. The true self is the unconditioned awareness that can observe the conditioned patterns and choose to change them. When you realize that your old frequency is simply programming, you stop defending it. You stop identifying with it. You stop making excuses for it. You see it as software that can be uninstalled and replaced with better software. This shift in perspective is crucial because as long as you believe your old frequency is who you really are, you will unconsciously resist changing it. Demolition requires the willingness to become someone new, and that willingness only comes when you recognize that who you have been is not who you must remain. The practical method for demolition involves 3 techniques. The first technique is disidentification. Every time you notice yourself thinking the old thoughts, feeling the old emotions, or acting from the old assumptions, you pause and say internally, "This is not me. This is old programming." You do not fight the thought or emotion. You do not suppress it or argue with it. You simply step back from it and observe it as something separate from your true self. This creates space between you and the pattern. In that space, the pattern loses its grip. It cannot control you when you are observing it because observation implies distance, and distance implies choice. The more you practice disidentification, the more the old frequency loosens its hold, and the more space opens for a new frequency to be installed. The second technique is interruption. Habitual frequencies have momentum because they run automatically. The thought leads to the emotion, which leads to the action, which reinforces the thought in a self-perpetuating loop. Murphy taught that you can break the loop by interrupting it at any point. When you catch yourself in the middle of an old thought pattern, you interrupt it with a deliberate thought in the opposite direction. When you catch yourself sliding into an old emotional state, you interrupt it with a deliberate shift in physical posture, breathing, or movement. The interruption does not need to be perfect. It does not need to completely stop the old pattern. It simply needs to break the automaticity, to introduce a pause, to remind your system that this is not the only option. Each interruption weakens the old pattern slightly. Each interruption creates a moment of choice where before there was only compulsion. Over time, the interruptions accumulate, and the old frequency loses its automatic quality. It becomes something you notice, rather than something you are controlled by. The third technique is release. Some patterns are so deeply embedded that disidentification and interruption are not enough. They require active release. Murphy taught a technique he called revision, which involves taking a memory or pattern that holds a negative frequency and imaginatively revising it to hold a positive frequency. If you have a memory of failure that keeps broadcasting the frequency of defeat, you close your eyes and replay that memory but change the ending. You see yourself succeeding instead of failing. You feel the emotions of success instead of defeat. You repeat this revised version until it feels as real as the original memory. The subconscious does not distinguish between a real memory and a vividly imagined one. When you revise the memory, you remove the negative emotional charge that was fueling the old frequency. The memory no longer broadcasts defeat because you have literally changed the record. Release can also involve forgiveness work, where you let go of resentments that anchor you to negative frequencies. Every grudge you hold is a broadcast that says the past is still present, and that broadcast attracts circumstances that match the frequency of the past injury. Releasing the grudge does not mean condoning the offense. It means freeing yourself from the vibrational chain that keeps you linked to it. The third phase of the frequency architecture protocol is construction. Once the old tower is demolished, you can build the new one. Construction involves creating a new dominant frequency using aligned thought, emotion, and assumption. Murphy provided specific instructions for each element. For thought, you must select the thoughts that correspond to your desired reality and make them the central furniture of your mind. This is not about positive thinking in the vague sense. It is about selecting specific thoughts that match the specific frequency you want to hold. If you want to hold the frequency of wealth, you must think the thoughts that wealthy people think. Not thoughts about wanting wealth, thoughts about having wealth. There is a critical difference. The thought, "I want to be wealthy," holds the frequency of lack because wanting implies not having. The thought, "I am so grateful for my abundance," holds the frequency of wealth because gratitude implies possession. Murphy was precise about this distinction. You must think from the desired state, not about the desired state. This requires imagination. You must imagine what you would think if your desire were already fulfilled, and then think those thoughts now, before the fulfillment appears in the external world. For emotion, you must cultivate the feelings that correspond to your desired reality and make them the dominant fuel of your broadcast. Again, this is not about forcing yourself to feel happy. It is about deliberately generating the specific emotions you would feel if your desire were already fulfilled. Murphy taught that the subconscious mind does not respond to words, but to feelings. You can repeat an affirmation 1,000 times, but if the feeling beneath it is doubt, the doubt is what gets transmitted. Conversely, you can say nothing at all, but if you feel the feeling of wealth, the feeling is what gets transmitted. The technique is to recall a time when you felt the desired emotion, to re-experience that feeling fully in your body, and then to associate that feeling with your current desire. If you want to feel the abundance of your desired wealth, you might recall a time when you felt truly abundant, perhaps a moment of overflowing generosity, or a moment when you realized you had more than enough. You relive that feeling, let it saturate your body, and then link it to your vision of financial wealth. Now the feeling and the vision are connected. When you think of your desired wealth, the feeling of abundance automatically arises. This is emotional anchoring, and it is one of the most powerful techniques in frequency construction. For assumption, you must adopt the beliefs that would be natural if your desired reality were already true. This is the deepest level of construction because assumptions are the foundation upon which thoughts and emotions rest. Murphy taught that you cannot sustainably think wealthy thoughts or feel wealthy emotions if your underlying assumption is that you are a poor person. The assumption will eventually override the surface activity. Therefore, assumption work is the most important work. You must examine what you would assume about yourself, about others, about life, about the universe if your desired reality were already true. If you were already wealthy, would you assume that money comes easily to you? Would you assume that opportunities are everywhere? Would you assume that the universe supports your prosperity? These are the assumptions you must adopt now, before the evidence supports them. You adopt them not because you can prove them, but because they are the foundation required for your new frequency. You adopt them as acts of faith, trusting that the law will respond to your assumption and produce the corresponding evidence in due time. The construction phase also involves what Murphy called the mental diet. Just as you cannot build a healthy body while eating poison, you cannot build a powerful frequency while consuming mental garbage. The mental diet is the discipline of controlling what you allow into your mind. It means limiting exposure to news that promotes fear, media that promotes lack, and conversations that reinforce negative assumptions. It means choosing consciously what you read, what you watch, who you spend time with, and what topics you discuss. Murphy was not teaching avoidance of reality. He was teaching stewardship of consciousness. Your mind is a garden. You must pull the weeds and plant the flowers. You must protect the soil from contamination. The mental diet is not paranoid isolation from the world. It is conscious curation of the inputs that shape your frequency. If you spend 2 hours a day watching news that focuses on disaster, conflict, and scarcity, you are feeding those frequencies into your system. If you spend an hour a day talking with people who complain about how hard life is, you are absorbing their frequencies into your system. The mental diet is about recognizing that you are permeable, that frequencies from your environment affect your internal state, and that you have the power and responsibility to control the environment you expose yourself to. We must now examine the fatal mistakes that sabotage frequency work, for without understanding these errors, even the most diligent practice will fail. The first and most common mistake is what Murphy called the checking compulsion, which we mentioned earlier. This is the habitual need to look for evidence that your new frequency is working. It manifests as constantly checking your bank account after affirming wealth. It manifests as obsessively monitoring your body after affirming health. It manifests as analyzing every interaction after affirming love. The checking compulsion seems innocent. It seems like you are simply being practical, monitoring your progress, keeping track of results. But Murphy identified it as the silent killer of manifestation, because the checking itself carries a frequency that contradicts the assumption. When you check for evidence, you are implicitly saying, "I am not sure this is working." If you were truly certain, you would not need to check. The certainty would be enough. Consider a person who is absolutely certain the sun will rise tomorrow. Do they set their alarm every hour throughout the night to check if the sun has risen yet? Of course not. Their certainty allows them to rest peacefully until morning. But if they were uncertain, if they doubted the sun would rise, they might check repeatedly, anxiously, compulsively. The checking reveals the doubt. The checking transmits the frequency of uncertainty. And uncertainty is not the frequency of manifestation. Certainty. Murphy taught that after you have impressed your new frequency on the subconscious, you must detach from the outcome. You must trust the process completely. You must refuse to check. This does not mean you become passive or stop taking inspired action. It means you stop looking over your shoulder to see if the universe is following you. You walk forward confidently, knowing that what you have planted will grow in its own time and that your job is to tend the frequency, not to dig up the seed. The second fatal mistake is what Murphy called emotional slippage. This is the failure to maintain the emotional component of your frequency under pressure. You can hold your new frequency beautifully when everything is going well, but then a challenge arises, an unexpected bill, a health scare, a rejection, a conflict, and your emotional state plummets. In that moment of emotional slippage, you have abandoned your new frequency and returned to the old one. The universe does not average your frequencies over time. It responds to your dominant frequency in each moment. If you hold abundance for 6 hours and then slip into fear for 1 hour, that 1 hour of fear can undo significant progress because fear is often more emotionally intense than calm abundance. Murphy taught that emotional resilience is the key to frequency stability. You must develop the capacity to maintain your chosen emotional state even when external circumstances seem to contradict it. This is the hardest part of the work. It is easy to feel abundant when money is flowing. The test is whether you can feel abundant when the bank account is empty. It is easy to feel healthy when your body feels good. The test is whether you can feel healthy when symptoms arise. This is not about suppressing negative emotions or pretending you do not feel what you feel. It is about having such a strong foundation of assumption that temporary emotional disturbances do not shake it. You acknowledge the challenge. You feel the momentary fear. But then you return to your chosen frequency because you know that the challenge is temporary evidence, not permanent truth. The third fatal mistake is fragmented frequency. This occurs when you are broadcasting different frequencies in different areas of your life. You might be holding a beautiful frequency of abundance around money, but a terrible frequency of lack around relationships. You might be holding a frequency of health in your body, but a frequency of conflict in your career. Murphy taught that the subconscious mind does not compartmentalize the way the conscious mind does. A frequency of lack in one area tends to bleed into other areas. A frequency of unworthiness around love tends to contaminate your sense of worthiness around success. For maximum power, your frequency should be coherent across all domains of life. This does not mean every area must be perfect. It means the underlying assumptions must be aligned. If your core assumption is "I am worthy and life supports me," that assumption should apply to money, love, health, career, creativity, and every other domain. When the core assumption is coherent, the surface variations matter less because they all rest on the same foundation. The fourth fatal mistake is premature declaration of failure. Murphy observed that most people give up on their frequency work right before the breakthrough. They practice for days or weeks, see no external results, and conclude that the law does not work or that they are doing it wrong. They abandon their new frequency and return to the old one, not realizing that they were in the gestation period, the time between planting the seed and seeing the sprout. Every seed has a gestation period. An apple seed takes years to produce fruit. A tomato seed takes months. The seeds of consciousness also have gestation periods, and Murphy taught that the larger the desire, the longer the gestation. If you are trying to manifest a parking spot, the gestation might be minutes. If you are trying to manifest a complete transformation of your financial life, the gestation might be months. During the gestation period, nothing visible is happening. The seed is underground doing its invisible work. If you dig it up because you are impatient, you kill the process. Premature declaration of failure is digging up the seed. It is abandoning the frequency before it has had time to produce results. Murphy counseled patience and persistence. He said that the subconscious does not operate on the timeline of the conscious mind. The subconscious operates according to its own wisdom, bringing the manifestation at the perfect time in the perfect way. Your job is to hold the frequency. The timing is not your job. Let us now turn to the proof of principle. For Murphy did not expect you to accept this teaching on blind faith. He provided examples and evidence that demonstrate the law in action. Consider the story of a man Murphy counseled who had been trying for years to build a successful business. He had the skills, he had the knowledge, he had the work ethic, but success eluded him. Every venture failed. Every opportunity collapsed. He came to Murphy in desperation, convinced that some external force was blocking his success. Murphy performed a frequency audit on this man and discovered the problem immediately. The man had grown up in poverty. His father had repeatedly told him that people like us do not become wealthy, that money is the root of all evil, that rich people are corrupt. These messages had installed a deep assumption that success was not available to him, was perhaps even dangerous to him. His conscious mind wanted success. His subconscious mind was broadcasting the frequency of failure because it believed failure was the safe option. Murphy taught this man the frequency architecture protocol. First, the audit revealed the specific assumptions operating beneath his conscious awareness. Second, the demolition work involved revising memories of his father's limiting statements, releasing the inherited frequency of poverty, and disidentifying with the belief that wealth was not for him. Third, the construction work involved building a new frequency of inevitable success, dwelling in the end state of running a thriving business, feeling the emotions of pride and accomplishment, and adopting the assumption that prosperity was his birthright. The man practiced diligently, doing his drowsy state visualization every night, maintaining his mental diet during the day, interrupting old thought patterns whenever they arose. For 3 months, nothing visible changed. His business struggles continued. His bank account remained low, but he trusted the process. He refused to check compulsively. He maintained his frequency even when evidence contradicted it. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, everything shifted. A contact he had not spoken to in years reached out with a partnership opportunity. An investor who had previously rejected him changed his mind and offered funding. Customers who had been cold suddenly became warm. Within 6 months, his business was thriving. Within a year, he had achieved a level of success he had never imagined possible. Murphy used this case to illustrate that the external changes were not magic. They were the lawful result of the internal frequency change. The man had stopped broadcasting failure and started broadcasting success. The universe, being obedient to the law of vibration, had no choice but to deliver circumstances that matched the new signal. This story is not unique. Murphy documented hundreds of similar cases throughout his career. The specific details varied, but the principle remained constant. Change the frequency, and reality must change. The law operates with mathematical precision. It does not play favorites. It does not care about your past, your education, your connections, or your circumstances. It responds only to your vibration. This is the great equalizer. The playing field is level at the level of consciousness. Anyone who learns to construct a powerful frequency will experience the corresponding reality. It does not matter where you started. It matters only where you are vibrating now. Murphy often said that you could take 2 people with identical external circumstances, identical skills, identical opportunities, and if one holds a frequency of success while the other holds a frequency of failure, their lives will diverge completely within a short period of time. The one broadcasting success will find doors opening, luck appearing, assistance arriving. The one broadcasting failure will find doors closing, bad luck multiplying, obstacles increasing. They will both interpret their experience as proof of their worldview. The successful one will say the universe is supportive. The failing one will say the universe is hostile. But the universe is neither. The universe is neutral. It simply responds to frequency. The scientific validation of Murphy's teaching has become increasingly clear in the decades since he developed his methods. Quantum physics has revealed that matter is not solid but vibrational. Particles exist as probability waves until observed, and the act of observation collapses the wave into a specific manifestation. While Murphy's teaching is not identical to quantum physics, the resonance is unmistakable. Consciousness influences matter. Observation affects outcome. The vibrational nature of reality that Murphy intuited has been confirmed by the most rigorous scientific inquiry of our age. Neuroscience has similarly confirmed the power of mental imagery and emotional states to reshape the brain and body. The phenomenon of neuroplasticity demonstrates that the brain is not fixed but moldable, and that repeated thoughts and feelings literally rewire neural pathways. When you practice dwelling in the end, you are not merely daydreaming. You are sculpting the physical structure of your brain to match your desired reality. The brain does not distinguish vividly imagined experience from actual experience at the neurological level. When you imagine success with sensory detail and emotional intensity, your brain records it as a real experience and begins to organize your perceptions, behaviors, and opportunities to align with that experience. The identity shift is the deepest level of frequency work, and without it, all other techniques are temporary patches on a leaking roof. Murphy understood that your dominant frequency is ultimately determined not by what you think or feel. Identity is the master frequency. All other frequencies are harmonics of the fundamental note of self-concept. If you believe you are a lucky person, you will hold the frequency of luck even when temporary setbacks occur. and luck will find you again. If you believe you are an unlucky person, no amount of positive thinking will permanently shift your frequency because the identity will reassert itself. This is why many people experience temporary success followed by collapse. They changed their thoughts and emotions, but they did not change their identity. They achieved success that did not match their self-concept, and the internal contradiction eventually resolved in favor of the deeper belief. The person who believes they are poor will find ways to lose money, even if they win the lottery. The person who believes they are wealthy will find ways to regenerate wealth, even if they lose everything. Murphy taught that identity change is not about becoming someone different. It is about recognizing who you already are at the deepest level and allowing that truth to override the false identity that was conditioned into you. The false identity says, "I am a failure, I am unworthy, I am limited." The true identity says, "I am an expression of infinite intelligence, I am capable of anything, I deserve all good." The true identity is not arrogance, it is spiritual reality. Murphy often quoted the teaching that you are made in the image and likeness of the creative power of the universe. If this is true, then limitation is the lie, and possibility is the truth. The identity shift is simply the process of rejecting the lie and accepting the truth about your nature. The practical method for identity shift involves what Murphy called "I am" statements. The words "I am" are the most creative words in human language because they define your identity. Whatever follows "I am" is a declaration to the subconscious about who you are, and the subconscious will work tirelessly to make your experience conform to your declaration. Most people use "I am" statements carelessly and destructively. They say, "I am broke, I am sick, I am stupid, I am unlucky, I am always late, I am bad at relationships." Each of these statements is a command to the subconscious to create the corresponding experience. The subconscious does not question whether you mean it. It does not ask if you are joking or exaggerating. It simply accepts the statement as identity and generates the matching frequency. Murphy taught that you must become vigilant about your "I am" statements. You must catch yourself when you make negative identity declarations and immediately correct them. You must deliberately choose "I am" statements that align with your desired reality and repeat them until they become automatic. The power of "I am" is that it operates at the identity level, which is deeper than thought or emotion. When you say "I am wealthy," you are not affirming a fact about your bank account. You are declaring an identity that will then generate the thoughts, emotions, and actions of a wealthy person. The bank account is a lagging indicator that will eventually catch up to the identity. When you say "I am healthy," you are not describing your current symptoms. You are declaring an identity that will then generate the cellular activity, the lifestyle choices, and the healing capacity of a healthy person. The symptoms are temporary evidence that will eventually yield to the power of identity. This is why Murphy insisted that "I am" statements must be spoken in the present tense and with conviction. You do not say "I will be wealthy" or "I want to be healthy." These statements put the desired identity in the future, and the future never arrives. You say "I am wealthy, I am healthy." You speak it as present fact, as current identity, and the subconscious accepts it as truth and begins to make it so. The challenge of identity work is that your old identity has enormous momentum. It has been reinforced by years of experience, by the expectations of others, by your own repeated behavior patterns. Changing identity feels like dying, because in a sense it is dying. The old self must die for the new self to be born. Murphy acknowledged that this death can be painful. It can trigger resistance, fear, and sabotage from the part of you that has invested everything in the old identity. But he also taught that the pain is temporary and the liberation is permanent. Once the new identity is established, once it becomes who you automatically believe yourself to be, all the downstream frequencies align effortlessly. You no longer have to force positive thoughts because positive thoughts arise naturally from a positive identity. You no longer have to manufacture positive emotions because positive emotions flow naturally from a positive identity. The work becomes easier because you are no longer fighting against yourself, you are expressing yourself. Murphy recommended a specific practice for identity installation. Each morning upon waking and each evening before sleep, you stand before a mirror, look yourself in the eyes, and speak your chosen "I am" statements aloud. You speak them slowly, with conviction, as if you are introducing yourself to yourself for the first time. I am a channel of infinite abundance. I am worthy of love and success. I am a powerful creator. I am always in the right place at the right time. I am supported by the universe in all that I do. The mirror is important because it creates a feedback loop. You are looking at yourself while declaring who you are. The visual and the verbal combine to create a powerful impression on the subconscious. The eyes are particularly important. Murphy taught that the eyes are the windows to the soul, and when you look into your own eyes while making an identity declaration, you are speaking directly to your deepest self. This practice may feel awkward at first. You may feel like you are lying to yourself. This feeling is the old identity resisting its own dissolution. You must persist through the resistance. You must speak the declarations even when they feel untrue, especially when they feel untrue, because the feeling of untruth is simply the gap between your current identity. The declarations are the bridge across that gap. The integration of identity shift with frequency work creates what Murphy called the master broadcaster, a person whose signal is so coherent, so stable, so powerful that reality bends to accommodate it. The master broadcaster does not hope for results. They expect results. They do not try to manifest. They naturally attract. Their very presence shifts the energy of any room they enter because they are broadcasting at such a high frequency that others cannot help but be affected. Murphy described meeting people who had mastered this principle, and he said their lives were magical in the truest sense. Opportunities flowed to them without effort. The right people appeared at the right time. Problems resolved themselves before becoming crises. They did not have more hours in the day than anyone else. They did not have special advantages or connections. They simply had a frequency so perfectly aligned that the universe organized itself around them. This is what awaits you if you apply the teaching with discipline and persistence. You are not learning techniques that will make your life marginally better. You are learning principles that will fundamentally transform what is possible for you. The frequency architecture protocol is not a strategy for improvement. It is a blueprint for metamorphosis. You are not going to become a slightly better version of your current self. You are going to become a completely different broadcaster, transmitting a completely different signal, receiving a completely different reality. The version of you who follows this teaching faithfully will be unrecognizable to the version of you who started, and the external circumstances of your life will be equally unrecognizable. This is not promise or prophecy. This is the law operating as it always operates. Change the frequency, and reality must obey. We arrive now at the synthesis of power, the integration of everything Murphy taught into a unified understanding of how reality operates and how you can command it. The fundamental insight is that the universe is responsive, not random. You are not living in a chaotic system where outcomes are determined by chance. You are living in an ordered system where outcomes are determined by vibration. The apparent chaos of life is simply the collective result of millions of individual frequencies interacting and interfering with each other. But your personal reality is determined primarily by your personal frequency. When you stabilize a strong, clear signal, you cut through the noise. You become a singular point of coherence in the ocean of vibration. And coherence attracts circumstances with magnetic precision. Murphy taught that this understanding should fundamentally change how you approach life. Most people approach life as victims trying to survive in a hostile or indifferent universe. They react to circumstances. They defend against threats. They hope for luck. They complain when things go wrong. But the master of frequency approaches life as a creator. They do not react to circumstances. They generate circumstances. They do not defend against threats. They render threats irrelevant by holding a frequency that cannot attract them. They do not hope for luck. They understand that luck is simply the experience of living at a high frequency where good things naturally flow. They do not complain when things go wrong because they know that complaint is a frequency that attracts more to complain about. Instead, they return to their chosen frequency and trust the law to deliver the corresponding results. This approach requires what Murphy called the faith of the scientist. Most people think of faith as blind belief, as accepting something without evidence. But Murphy described faith differently. Scientific faith is the trust that comes from understanding law. A scientist does not hope that gravity will work tomorrow. They know it will because they understand the law. In the same way, you should not hope that frequency works. You should know it works because you understand the law of vibration. This knowledge gives you the courage to hold your frequency even when external evidence contradicts it. You are not being naive or delusional. You are being lawful. You are trusting that the law will operate as it always operates, and you are willing to wait for the physical evidence to catch up to the vibrational truth. The final teaching Murphy offered is perhaps the most profound. He said that you are not using the law. You are the law in action. The creative power of the universe is not external to you. It is expressing as you, through you, in you. When you change your frequency, you are not manipulating some separate force. You are adjusting your own expression of the infinite. You are not a small creature begging the universe for favors. You are a localization of the universe itself, containing the same creative power that formed galaxies and birthed stars. This power is not potential. It is actual. It is flowing through you right now, creating your experience according to your dominant frequency. The only question is whether you will direct this power consciously or allow it to be directed by unconscious patterns installed by others. Murphy challenged his students with this question, and I challenge you with it now. Are you going to continue broadcasting the frequencies that were programmed into you by people who did not understand the law? Are you going to continue transmitting fear, lack, and limitation because that is what you absorbed from your environment? Or are you going to take sovereign control of your transmission tower and broadcast the frequency of your choosing? The power is already yours. It has always been yours. The question is whether you will claim it. We arrive at the final challenge and the call to action that will determine whether this teaching transforms your life or becomes another video you watched and forgot. Murphy was emphatic that knowledge without application is worthless. You can understand the law of vibration perfectly and still live in poverty, sickness, and failure if you do not apply what you know. The law does not respond to understanding. It responds to practice. It responds to sustained frequency. It responds to the consistent signal you broadcast day after day, not to the knowledge stored in your memory. Therefore, I issue you a challenge. The Frequency Challenge. For the next 7 days, you will practice the Frequency Architecture Protocol with total commitment. Each day you will do the following. Upon waking, before you get out of bed, you will spend 5 minutes in your drowsy state impressing your chosen reality. You will construct a short scene that implies your desire is fulfilled. You will loop that scene with sensory detail and emotional intensity. You will feel what it would feel like if your desire were already yours. Throughout the day, you will maintain vigilance over your frequency. Every hour, you will pause and check your internal state. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? What frequency are you broadcasting? If you have slipped into old patterns, you will gently redirect yourself to your chosen frequency. You will use interruption, disidentification, and deliberate thought selection to maintain your signal. Each evening, before sleep, you will return to your drowsy state practice. You will spend 10 minutes dwelling in your chosen reality, saturating your subconscious with the frequency of your fulfilled desire. You will fall asleep in that frequency, allowing the subconscious to work through the night on your behalf. You will not check for results. For 7 days, you will trust the process completely. You will not monitor your bank account to see if wealth is appearing. You will not examine your body for signs of healing. You will not analyze your relationships for evidence of improvement. You will simply hold the frequency and trust the law. On the 7th day, you will assess not whether external circumstances have changed, but whether your internal state has shifted. Do you feel different? Do you think different thoughts more naturally? Do the old patterns have less grip? If yes, you have succeeded. If no, you will continue for another 7 days and another. Until the frequency becomes stable, I promise you this. If you practice with commitment, you will experience changes that will astonish you. They may not come on day 1 or day 3. They may not come in the form you expect, but they will come. The law is not sentimental. It does not care about your hopes or wishes, but it is absolutely reliable. It responds to frequency without exception. When you broadcast a new signal with clarity and persistence, reality must reorganize. This is not faith in the religious sense. This is physics applied to consciousness. The only variable is whether you will do the work. Right now, I want you to type in the comments below, "I am the frequency." This is your declaration. This is your commitment made public. When you type, "I am the frequency," you are announcing to your subconscious and to the universe that you understand the law and you are ready to apply it. You are not asking for change. You are becoming the change at the level of vibration. Type it now, and then subscribe to this channel because the work we do here is the most important work you can do. Every video on sacred logic is a piece of the master blueprint. Every teaching builds on the last. Every protocol refines and deepens your understanding of the laws that govern experience. This is not entertainment. This is education in the truest sense, the drawing out of the power that is already within you. Murphy's legacy is not a collection of nice ideas. It is a system of transformation that has changed millions of lives. It changed my life. It can change yours if you let it. The question is not whether the law works. The law always works. The question is whether you will align yourself with the law or continue to fight against it unconsciously. Every moment you spend broadcasting fear, lack, and limitation is a moment the universe is obeying your command to deliver fear, lack, and limitation. Every moment you spend broadcasting abundance, love, and possibility is a moment the universe is obeying your command to deliver abundance, love, and possibility. The universe is not your enemy. The universe is your servant. It is waiting right now, in this moment, to deliver whatever you truly command. Not what you say you want, what you broadcast, what you vibrate, what you are. The frequency is yours to choose. The reality is yours to create. The power has never been outside you. It has always been inside you, waiting for you to claim it, waiting for you to stop giving it away to circumstances and external authorities, waiting for you to realize that you are the transmission tower and the signal is entirely under your control. Murphy spent his life teaching this one truth in 1,000 different ways. The subconscious mind is the creative power of the universe individualized as you. What you impress upon it, it must express. What frequency you hold, it must manifest. You are not separate from the creative force. You are the creative force in human form. And when you truly understand this, when you stop begging and start commanding, when you stop hoping and start knowing, reality has no choice but to reorganize itself around your signal. This is the moment of decision. You can close this video and return to your old frequency, your old identity, your old reality. Nothing will change. The universe will continue to deliver what you have always broadcast. Or you can accept the challenge. You can begin the frequency architecture protocol tonight. You can start constructing a signal so powerful that circumstances must bend. You can become what Murphy called a master broadcaster, a person whose very presence changes the vibrational environment, a person who does not chase success but radiates it, a person who does not seek love but emanates it, a person who is so aligned with the creative power of the universe that miracles become daily occurrences. The choice is yours. It has always been yours. Murphy cannot make it for you. I cannot make it for you. The universe cannot make it for you. Only you can choose. Only you can hold the frequency. But know this, if you choose transformation, if you commit to the work, if you hold your frequency with the persistence and faith of one who understands the law, you will not fail. You cannot fail. The law does not fail. The law delivers what is broadcast without exception. When you become the frequency of your desired reality, that reality must manifest. It is not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. And the when is determined by the strength and stability of your signal. Build the strongest signal you have ever built. Broadcast it with unwavering conviction. Refuse to check for results. Trust the process completely, and watch as reality, which has always been your servant, begins to obey you as the master it has always known you to be. I am the frequency. Say it with me. Feel it in your bones. Know it in your cells. Let it become not just a statement, but an identity. Let it become not just a practice, but a way of being. The frequency is not something you do. The frequency is something you are. And when you become the frequency of your highest vision, that vision must materialize. This is law. This is the teaching. This is the power of Murphy. This is sacred logic. And this is your new reality, waiting for you to claim it with every vibration of your being. The transmission tower is built. The signal is clear. The universe is listening. What will you broadcast? Choose now, choose wisely. And never broadcast anything less than the fullness of what you deserve, which is everything, which is all of it, which is the infinite abundance that was always meant to flow through you the moment you stopped blocking it with the frequency of fear. The blockage is removed. The signal is strong. Reality awaits your command. This is your moment. This is your frequency. This is your life. Create it consciously. Create it powerfully. Create it now. The mechanism of frequency operates through what Murphy called the law of correspondence, which states that your outer world is always a perfect mirror of your inner world. This is not metaphor. This is not poetry. This is the precise description of how consciousness relates to physical reality. The relationship between inner and outer is not approximate or general. It is exact. Every detail of your external experience corresponds to some aspect of your internal frequency. The amount of money in your bank account corresponds exactly to your frequency around wealth. The quality of your relationships corresponds exactly to your frequency around love and worthiness. The state of your health corresponds exactly to your frequency around vitality and wholeness. There is no randomness. There is no luck. There is only correspondence. When you understand this law completely, you stop blaming external circumstances for your problems, and you start examining your internal frequency for solutions. The problem is never out there. The problem is always in here, in the signal you are broadcasting, in the frequency you are holding. Murphy illustrated the law of correspondence with the analogy of the mirror. When you stand before a mirror and you see your reflection frowning, you do not reach into the mirror and try to manipulate the reflection into a smile. You know that the reflection has no independent existence. It simply reflects what stands before it. If you want to see a smiling reflection, you must smile. The change must happen on the side of the mirror where you stand, not on the side where the reflection appears. Your external reality is the reflection. Your internal frequency is what stands before the mirror. When you try to change your circumstances without changing your frequency, you are reaching into the mirror. You are trying to manipulate the reflection while maintaining the original expression. This is why effort without frequency change is exhausting and futile. You can struggle against your reflection forever, but until you change the original, the reflection cannot change. Murphy taught that this understanding alone, if truly grasped, is enough to transform your approach to life completely. You stop fighting with circumstances. You start adjusting your frequency. And the circumstances, being reflections, have no choice but to shift. A law of correspondence also operates through the principle of resonance. In physics, resonance occurs when one vibrating system causes another system to vibrate in sympathy. Strike a tuning fork, and another tuning fork, tuned to the same frequency, will begin to vibrate without being touched. This is not mysterious. This is the lawful behavior of vibration. Murphy taught that consciousness operates by the same principle. When you hold a frequency, you cause resonance in everything that matches that frequency. You literally call forth from the infinite field of possibility those circumstances, people, and events that vibrate in sympathy with your signal. This is not attraction in the popular sense of pulling things toward you. It is resonance in the scientific sense of causing activation in what already exists at your frequency. The wealth that comes to you does not have to be created from nothing. It already exists in the infinite field as a potential. Your frequency activates that potential. Your frequency calls it into manifestation from the realm of the unmanifest into the realm of the manifest. You are not creating out of void. You are selecting from infinite possibility through the filter of your vibration. This brings us to a deeper understanding of why frequency stability matters so much. If your frequency is unstable, if it fluctuates between abundance and lack, between faith and doubt, between love and fear, you create resonance patterns that are equally unstable. One moment you activate wealth, the next moment you activate poverty. One moment you activate health, the next moment you activate disease. The universe responds faithfully to each signal, but because the signals contradict each other, the manifestations contradict each other. You get bursts of good fortune followed by collapses. You get moments of intimacy followed by rejection. You get improvements in health followed by setbacks. This is not the universe being capricious. This is the universe being lawful. It is responding to your fluctuating signal with fluctuating results. When you stabilize your frequency, when you hold a consistent signal over time, the resonance stabilizes. The universe can deliver sustained results because you are making a sustained request. The goal of frequency work is not to broadcast the right signal once. It is to broadcast the right signal continuously until it becomes your dominant vibration and attracts a stable stream of corresponding circumstances. The advanced practitioner of Murphy's teaching learns to read reality as a frequency report. Instead of judging circumstances as good or bad, lucky or unlucky, fair or unfair, they read them as information about their current broadcast. When something unwanted appears, they do not react with frustration or despair. They pause and ask, what frequency must I have been holding to attract this? The unwanted circumstance becomes a diagnostic tool, revealing where their frequency has drifted, where their assumptions have gone unconscious, where their emotions have slipped into old patterns. This is not self-blame. This is self-awareness. There is a critical difference. Self-blame says, I am bad for creating this. Self-awareness says, I am powerful enough to create this, which means I am powerful enough to create something different. The advanced practitioner uses every circumstance, wanted or unwanted, as feedback. They are constantly refining their frequency based on what shows up in their life. They are always asking, what am I broadcasting that this could be a match? And they are always adjusting, correcting, realigning. Murphy also taught about the compounding nature of frequency. Just as money compounds over time, frequency compounds through consistency. A small frequency adjustment held consistently over time produces results that far exceed what would be expected from the magnitude of the adjustment. This is because frequency does not produce results arithmetically. It produces results exponentially. A 10% improvement in frequency held for a year produces more than a 10% improvement in results. It produces a geometric increase because each small improvement makes the next improvement easier. When your frequency rises slightly, you attract slightly better circumstances. Those slightly better circumstances make it easier to hold an even higher frequency. The higher frequency attracts even better circumstances, and so on in an upward spiral of compounding improvement. Murphy called this the momentum of success. Once you get the spiral moving upward, it tends to continue upward. But the opposite is also true. Negative frequency compounds negatively. A small decline in frequency attracts slightly worse circumstances, which make it harder to hold frequency, which attracts even worse circumstances in a downward spiral of compounding failure. This is why catching frequency slippage early is so important. A small decline left uncorrected can compound into a major crisis. A small improvement maintained consistently can compound into a major breakthrough. Let us speak now of the relationship between action and frequency, for this is an area of great confusion among students of Murphy's teaching. Some people believe that frequency work is a substitute for action, that if they simply hold the right vibration, they can sit on the couch and watch abundance flow in. This is a misunderstanding. Others believe that action is everything and frequency is merely positive thinking, a nice addition but not the real determinant of results. This is also a misunderstanding. Murphy taught that action and frequency work together in a specific relationship. Frequency creates the channel. Action fills the channel. Without the right frequency, your actions are like water poured on rock. They run off. They do not penetrate. They do not produce lasting results. With the right frequency, your actions are like water poured into fertile soil. They are absorbed. They penetrate. They produce fruit. The same action taken from two different frequencies produces completely different results. Consider two salespeople making the same sales call. One holds a frequency of desperation and scarcity. They need the sale. They approach the prospect with grasping energy, with subtle pressure, with the vibration of someone who is not enough. The prospect feels this energy without understanding it and resists. The sale does not happen. The other salesperson holds a frequency of abundance and service. They do not need the sale. They approach the prospect with offering energy, with genuine helpfulness. with the vibration of someone who has plenty to give. The prospect feels this energy without understanding it and opens. The sale happens easily. The action was identical. The frequency was different. The result was opposite. Murphy taught that when your frequency is right, the right actions become obvious, and the actions produce results that seem disproportionate to the effort. This is what people call luck, or good timing, or being in the right place at the right time. It is not random. It is the natural result of aligned frequency. When your frequency is wrong, even massive action produces minimal results, or counterproductive results. You work harder and harder, but the needle barely moves. This is the experience of rowing against the current. The solution is not to row harder, it is to change the current through frequency adjustment. Murphy also taught that the right frequency often produces inspired action, action that arises spontaneously from the aligned state rather than being forced by the will. When you hold the frequency of your desired reality, you begin to have ideas you would not have had from your old frequency. You notice opportunities you would not have noticed. You feel impulses to take certain actions that lead to unexpected breakthroughs. This is the subconscious mind, impressed with a new frequency, guiding you toward circumstances that match the frequency. It is not that you stop taking action. It is that your action becomes guided, intuitive, effortless. You are not forcing outcomes through willpower. You are flowing toward outcomes through alignment. This flow state is what athletes call being in the zone. It is what artists call being in the creative flow. It is the experience of perfect alignment between inner frequency and outer action. Murphy's teaching is ultimately about learning to live in this state continuously, to make flow your normal mode of operation rather than a rare exception. We must address the question of setbacks, for even the dedicated practitioner will experience moments when reality seems to contradict their frequency. A financial loss appears despite holding abundance. An illness arises despite holding health. A relationship ends despite holding love. How should these experiences be understood within the framework of Murphy's teaching? Murphy was clear that setbacks are not evidence that the law has failed. They are often the final gasps of the old frequency as it dies. When you change your dominant vibration, you do not instantly erase all the momentum of the old vibration. The old frequency had been broadcasting for years, perhaps decades. It had created circumstances that were already in motion toward manifestation. These circumstances do not disappear the moment you change your frequency. They complete their trajectory, arriving in your experience as echoes of the past rather than reflections of the present. Murphy compared this to the delay between lightning and thunder. The lightning has already happened, but the sound takes time to reach you. Similarly, the frequency change has already happened, but the circumstances created by the old frequency take time to arrive and pass through. The danger during this transitional period is that you will interpret the lagging circumstances as evidence that your new frequency is not working. You will lose faith. You will abandon your new frequency and return to the old one just at the moment when the new frequency was about to produce visible results. Murphy counseled persistence through this difficult phase. He said that the circumstances arising from old frequency are like clouds passing across the sun. The sun has not stopped shining. The clouds are temporary obstructions that will move on if you do not give them power by focusing on them. When a setback appears, you acknowledge it without emotional collapse. You handle it practically if action is required. But you do not let it shake your frequency. You do not let it convince you that the law has stopped working. You recognize it as an echo of the past, and you continue broadcasting your new signal. Eventually, the echoes fade. The old circumstances complete their trajectory, and the new circumstances created by your new frequency begin to arrive. The manifestation is always happening. The only question is whether you will persist long enough to see it through. Murphy often said that the true test of frequency mastery is not how you hold vibration when things are going well, but how you hold vibration when things appear to be going badly. Anyone can feel abundant when money is flowing. The test is whether you can feel abundant when the bills are due and the account is empty. Anyone can feel healthy when the body is strong. The test is whether you can feel healthy when symptoms arise. The master does not require external confirmation of their frequency. They hold the frequency because it is the truth of their being, regardless of what the mirror currently shows. They know that the mirror is showing the past, and their frequency is creating the future. They trust the law more than they trust their eyes. This is the faith that Murphy taught. Not blind belief, but informed trust, based on understanding of law. When you truly understand that frequency creates reality, you can hold your chosen frequency through any storm, because you know the storm is temporary and the frequency is eternal. The final synthesis of Murphy's teaching is the recognition that you are both the radio and the signal. You are both the transmitter and the transmission. You are both the creator and the creation. This is not a technique you apply from outside yourself. This is a truth you recognize about your own nature. The power has never been separate from you. The creative intelligence of the universe is not a distant force you must petition or appease. It is the very substance of your consciousness. It is what you are made of. When you change your frequency, you are not manipulating an external power. You are adjusting your own expression of the one power that creates all things. Murphy spent his final years emphasizing this point above all others. He said that the greatest error is to think of yourself as separate from the source. The greatest truth is to know yourself as the source. Localized, the infinite expressed as the individual, the cosmic condensed into the personal. When you know this, frequency work becomes natural and effortless. You are not trying to get the universe to do something for you. You are allowing the universe to express more fully through you. The universe wants to express as abundance, as health, as love, as joy. These are its natural tendencies. Your only task is to stop blocking the expression with limiting frequencies. When you remove the blocks, the abundance that is seeking you finds you. The health that is your birthright restores you. The love that permeates existence embraces you. You do not have to chase or attract, you simply allow what has always been yours. This is the ultimate message. This is the frequency that contains all frequencies. You are worthy. You are capable. You are connected. You are the creative power of the universe in human form. The reality you experience is your own creation, not as punishment, but as power. What you have created unconsciously, you can recreate consciously. What you have built in darkness, you can rebuild in light. The transmission tower is yours. The signal is yours. The reality that results is yours. Murphy left this teaching not as philosophy, but as practical instruction for transforming your experience from the inside out. The question that remains is whether you will apply it. Will you continue to broadcast the frequencies that were installed without your consent, or will you take command of your own signal and transmit the reality you choose? The universe awaits your decision. Reality stands ready to obey your frequency. The power has always been yours. Claim it now. Hold it with unshakable certainty, and watch as the world reorganizes itself around the signal of your highest truth. This is the law. This is the teaching. This is your destiny waiting to be fulfilled. The frequency is strong. Reality must obey. And you, master broadcaster, are finally ready to command. Murphy documented another case that demonstrates the precision of the law. The story of a woman who had been seeking a romantic partnership for years without success. She had done everything the conventional world suggests. She had joined dating services, she had attended social events, she had asked friends to introduce her to eligible partners. She had worked on herself, improved her appearance, developed her conversation skills, built an interesting life, and yet partnership remained elusive. Every potential relationship ended before it truly began. Every promising connection faded into disappointment. She came to Murphy convinced that love was simply not available for her, that some people were meant to find partners and she was not one of them. Murphy performed the frequency audit and discovered a complex of beliefs operating beneath her conscious awareness. Her mother had been abandoned by her father when she was young and had repeatedly told her that men cannot be trusted, that relationships end in pain, that it is better to protect yourself than to open your heart. These messages had installed a deep assumption that love equals eventual abandonment. At the conscious level, she desired partnership intensely. At the subconscious level, she was broadcasting a frequency that said, "Love is dangerous, stay away." Her subconscious was actually trying to protect her by keeping love at a distance. Every time a potential partner appeared, her subconscious would broadcast subtle signals of unavailability, signals she was completely unaware of but which potential partners sensed and responded to by withdrawing. She was creating the very abandonment she feared by broadcasting the expectation of abandonment. Murphy guided her through the frequency architecture protocol. The audit revealed the specific beliefs. The demolition work involved revising memories of her mother's warnings, releasing the inherited fear of abandonment, and disidentifying from the belief that love was dangerous. The construction work involved building a new frequency of safe, lasting partnership. She created a scene of sitting with her beloved partner, feeling the warmth of their presence, the security of their commitment, the joy of shared life. She practiced this scene nightly in the drowsy state. She adopted the assumption that she was lovable, that partnership was natural for her, that men could be trusted. She maintained these assumptions during the day, catching herself when old fears arose and redirecting to the new frequency. For several months, nothing visible changed, but she trusted the process. She held her frequency. Then, without warning, the changes began. She met someone at an event she almost did not attend. The connection was immediate and deep. Unlike previous connections, this one did not fade. Instead, it grew stronger. She noticed that she felt different inside, more open, more trusting, more capable of receiving love. The man reflected this difference back to her, responding to her new frequency with corresponding openness. Within a year, they were married. The partnership she had sought for so long arrived not because she tried harder at dating, but because she changed the frequency from which she was operating. The law of correspondence had been operating all along. When her inner frequency said love is dangerous, outer reality reflected danger and kept love away. When her inner frequency said love is safe and natural, outer reality reflected safety and brought love close. This case illustrates a principle Murphy emphasized repeatedly. The universe is always saying yes to your frequency. It does not distinguish between frequencies you want and frequencies you do not want. It simply matches whatever you broadcast with whatever corresponds. If you broadcast the frequency of fear, the universe says yes to fear and brings you circumstances to fear. If you broadcast the frequency of love, the universe says yes to love and brings you circumstances to love. The universe has no preference. It is a perfect mirror, a precise correspondence machine. Your power lies not in getting the universe to say yes, because it is always saying yes. Your power lies in choosing what frequency to broadcast so that the yes brings what you desire rather than what you dread. Murphy also taught about the collective frequency and how it affects individual experience. While your personal reality is primarily shaped by your personal frequency, you exist within a larger field of collective frequency generated by all of humanity. This collective frequency creates the general conditions of the society and era in which you live. During times of collective fear, it becomes harder for individuals to maintain high frequency because the collective field is pulling downward. During times of collective optimism, it becomes easier for individuals to rise because the collective field is lifting upward. The advanced practitioner learns to insulate their personal frequency from collective negativity while contributing their positive frequency to the collective field. They understand that they cannot change the collective frequency directly, but they can change their own frequency, and their own elevated frequency contributes to raising the collective. Every individual who masters their frequency becomes a point of light in the collective field. Every transmission of abundance, love, and possibility adds to the collective supply of these frequencies. Murphy saw this as the ultimate spiritual contribution, not preaching or converting, but radiating, not trying to fix others, but becoming so luminous that others are inspired by proximity. The practical implication is that you must be deliberate about your exposure to collective frequencies. Mass media, social media, news broadcasts, these are all transmissions of collective frequency, and they are often tuned to fear, conflict, and scarcity because these frequencies capture attention. When you consume these transmissions without awareness, you absorb their frequency into your system. Your personal frequency becomes contaminated with collective fear. Your broadcasting becomes static and confused. Murphy recommended limited and conscious engagement with collective frequencies. You can stay informed without marinating in negativity. You can be aware of world events without letting them colonize your consciousness. The mental diet we discussed earlier applies here. You protect your frequency from contamination, not through ignorance of the world, but through conscious stewardship of what you allow into your mind. As we conclude this teaching, remember that frequency is not something you do occasionally. It is something you are continuously. Every moment you are broadcasting. Every moment the universe is responding. Every moment your reality is being shaped by the signal you transmit. There is no neutral state. There is no time off. Even your sleep broadcasts frequency, which is why the drowsy state practice is so important. Even your unconscious moments are creative, which is why assumption work at the deepest level matters so much. You are always creating. The question is only whether you are creating consciously or unconsciously. Murphy's gift to humanity was to make conscious creation available to everyone. Before his teaching, the principles of mind were known only to initiates, hidden in esoteric texts, guarded by religious institutions. Murphy translated these principles into plain language and practical methods. He democratized the power of consciousness. He showed that you do not need special birth, special training, special permission to command reality through frequency. You only need understanding and practice. The understanding you now have. The practice begins the moment you close this video and start the frequency challenge. You are standing at the threshold of transformation. Behind you is the reality created by unconscious frequency, by inherited assumptions, by programmed fears, by absorbed limitations. Before you is the reality you will create through conscious frequency, through chosen assumptions, through cultivated faith, through deliberate transmission. You cannot stand at the threshold forever. You must choose. You must step forward into conscious creation or step back into unconscious reaction. There is no middle ground. There is no comfortable compromise. The law operates whether you acknowledge it or not. The only question is whether you will operate the law or be operated by it. I have given you the teaching. I have given you the protocol. I have given you the warnings about mistakes and the encouragement of cases where the law produced miracles. Now the transmission passes to you. Now you become the broadcaster. What will you transmit? What frequency will you hold? What reality will you command into existence? The universe is listening. Reality is malleable. The power is yours. Use it. Use it now. Use it today. Use it for the rest of your life, and become the living proof that when the frequency is strong enough, clear enough, stable enough, reality has no choice but to obey. This is the law. This is your inheritance. This is sacred logic. And this is the moment everything changes.